The Commission on Elections, or Comelec, pushes back and asserts its independence in the face of threats by Solicitor General Jose Calida over a memorandum of agreement with online news site Rappler. Acting Comelec Chairperson Socorro Inting says Comelec is currently studying its options but reiterates its autonomy.
I would like to emphasize that Comelec is a constitutional body and an independent body.
The chief government lawyer threatened last Monday, February 28, to take legal action if the Comelec does not withdraw from its fact-checking agreement with Rappler for the 2022 elections. Solicitor General Jose Calida gave the Comelec until Friday, March 4 to rescind the MOA with Rappler. Under the agreement, Rappler will mobilize its network of fact-checkers through the #FactsFirstPH initiative, a collaboration among 14 news groups and over 100 civil society organizations. Rappler will alert the Comelec about false and misleading election-related claims on social media, as well as create content on voter education and embed the poll body's online precinct finder on the news website. Earlier, spokesman James Jimenez said that Rappler is not getting special information that would not be available to any other media network. Meantime, Rappler CEO and Nobel laureate Maria Ressa says she had to laugh at the brazenness of the Solicitor General, who does not seem to realize the power and mandate of the poll body.
Medyo natawa po ako eh. Kasi parang, did the Solicitor General just forget that Comelec is the most powerful independent body during elections?
In a statement, Rappler says Calida's claim against the Rappler-Comelec agreement are fraught with falsehoods, innuendos, and hallucinations. Speaking to Karen Davila on Head Start, a show on ANC, Ressa says the Office of the Solgen should Google first to avoid embarrassment.
Anyone running a campaign should know the difference between access to data and embed. Pwede naman mag-Google, di ba? Siguro po, pwede kayong mag-Google para hindi naman nakakahiya yung mga sinasabi nyo.
Meanwhile, opposition lawmaker and re-electionist Senator Laila De Lima slammed Solicitor General Jose Calida's latest attack against Rappler and the Comelec, calling it baseless. She says, it's doubtful that the Solicitor General even has the power to bring such kind of action against the Comelec, which is an independent constitutional commission. The implementation of the Commission on Elections rules on physical campaigning continues for most parts of the country, despite an order issued by a court in Baguio. The rule, triggered by pandemic health concerns, requires volunteers to apply for a Comelec permit before conducting any election campaign activity. Supporters of presidential aspirant Leni Robredo asked the RTC to intervene. Acting Comelec Chairperson Socorro Inting says Friday, March 4, the Baguio RTC cannot compel Comelec's main office to comply with its directive.
The jurisdiction of Baguio RTC is only within Baguio. They have not acquired jurisdiction over us.
The RTC ordered the Comelec to suspend the policy, but questions arose whether this order applies to the Cordillera region or the whole country. Inting, meantime, answers in the affirmative when asked whether the Comelec will continue the implementation of the policy in other parts of the Philippines, except for Cordillera.
Need more context, clarity, and perspective? Get the full picture with Rappler Plus. With exclusive content and events, you'll get an opportunity to discuss issues with reporters, experts, and featured guests, while helping Rappler continue its fearless journalism. Join now.
Presidential candidate Leni Robredo remains hopeful and unperturbed, despite remaining in far second place in major surveys to frontrunner, the late dictator's son, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. When asked about her poor showings in the polls while campaigning in Cavite on Friday, March 4, Robredo says it does not discourage her at all. Robredo believes these numbers do not yet capture what she describes as the fervor of her passionate supporters on the ground.
Not at all, not at all. Kami lahat, nila Senator Kiko, ramdam namin na ibang-iba ito. Noong 2016, walang ganitong fervor sa tao. Ngayon, hindi mahirap mag-ipon ng tao. In fact, mas hirap kami ngayon mag-limit ng tao because of the protocols.
Some 2.13 million votes are up for grabs in this province, where Marcos had edged Robredo out in the 2016 vice presidential race by over 152,000 votes. Cavite is also the bailiwick of another presidential bet, Senator Panfilo Lacson. Robredo says her optimism stems from her experience in 2016, where she emerged victorious against Marcos Jr. despite starting out with single-digit voter preference and awareness ratings.
Coming from 2016, nag-number 3 ako noong 2016, late March na. Number 3 pa lang ako. Nag-number 2 ako, third week of April na. So ano talaga to? Down to the finish line talaga yung laban. And mas lalo tayong nai-inspire kasi nararamdaman natin yung energy talaga on the ground.
Marcos still maintains his lead in the latest Pulse Asia survey conducted in January 19 to 24, outstripping his rivals with 60%, an increase of 7 points from December 2021. Members of Davao City-based preacher Apollo Quiboloy's Kingdom of Jesus Christ Church filed a dozen cyber libel complaints against Rappler, its journalists, and 4 women interviewed for a series of investigative reports. The women alleged they were financially exploited, emotionally manipulated, and that they knew about cases of sexual abuse of some church members. The complaints were filed in Davao City by Quiboloy's coordinators and KOJC ministers. The complaints were filed against Rappler's regional head Inday Espina Barona, Mindanao Bureau Coordinator Herbie Gomez, and former researcher Vernice Tantuco. Also included were former KOJC members Arlene Caminong Stone, Faith Quilion, and Renita Fernandez. Ateneo de Manila University professor Jael Cornelio was included in the complaint. He gave his expert opinion as an academic and sociologist of religion in one of the Rappler Talk interviews. The Rappler reports were an offshoot of the November 2021 unsealing of an indictment by a federal grand jury in California, United States, against Quiboloy and 8 of his associates. They were charged with conspiracy to engage in sex trafficking by force, fraud and coercion, sex trafficking of children, marriage fraud, fraud and misuse of visas, bulk cash smuggling, promotional money laundering, concealment money laundering, and international promotional money laundering. Russian forces seized the largest nuclear power plant in Europe after a building at the complex was set ablaze during intense fighting with Ukrainian defenders Friday, March 4. The Zaporizhzhia plant provides more than a fifth of the total electricity generated in Ukraine, but experts say Friday there was no indication of elevated radiation levels. A video feed from the plant shows shelling and smoke rising near a 5-story building at the plant compound. Meantime, in the capital Kiev, workers and welders are making giant metal anti-tank barricades known as hedgehogs and smaller spiked barriers aimed at stopping wheeled vehicles. This as Russian troops close in on the city. Heavy equipment are brought in to build concrete checkpoints, blocking positions and bunkers inside the city and along all major roads and in the suburbs. Russia captured one Ukrainian city so far, the southern Dnipro River port of Kherson, and bombarded others with increasing intensity, including Kiev and the country's second city, Kharkiv.